Ready and racing.
Welcome to the Dogcast for Greyhound Racing SA. Visit grsa.com.au.
Well, welcome to the latest edition of the Dogcast, brought to you by Greyhound Racing SA. I'm your host, Brenton Yates, and joining me today is Greyhound Racing SA's racing manager, Shaun Mathieson. Matho, welcome back. Great to see you.
Thanks, Yatesy. Great to be here. We had our first show in the new surroundings last week.
Yes.
And a good show, I think, by all reports. Got some nice commentary around it. So looking forward to today's show.
And it's going to be a great show today. We've got the Greyhound of the Year Awards coming up Saturday night, so that'll feature a big chunk of our show today.
Yeah, absolutely. I mean, we've got 5 wonderful finalists, which we'll go through very shortly. It's night of nights for Greyhound Racing in South Australia on Saturday night at Angle Park. They do a wonderful job with the setup and the likes of that. So people get dressed up. Our industry, look their best for the night. So really looking forward to it.
Should be fantastic. So we'll preview all those 5 greyhounds. Also, we've got a big review coming up of the SA St Ledger, which you tipped the winner of. We've got to say, you had a big night, actually. We'll get to that, I'm sure.
Yes.
Sure you'll be blowing the trumpet. Queen of Scotch for Tony Rasmussen took that out. And, what about Saturday night at the Meadows? Wasn't it extraordinary? Victa, Damian, fantastic.
Yep.
And Captain Larry owned in SA as well.
That's right. Yeah, I mean, all SAIs were on the racing at the Meadows on Saturday night. And, the boom around Victa Damian was certainly proven when he took on Group 1 Open Company and was able to get the job done. But Captain Larry as well, we'll talk about that a bit later when we preview the race itself. But the 9 of a syndicate own him and transferred into a Victorian kennel, but doing a great job for the SA owners.
Absolutely. We've got a big show, so stick around.
The Week in Review.
Our Week in Review brought to you by Fresh Pet Food Co., proud suppliers of fresh pet food for our GAP SA greyhounds in the GAP prison programs. They're based right here in SA as well, so visit their website, freshpetfoodco.com.au for more info. Matho, review time, Thursday night, St Ledger. You like Queen of Scotch? I tell you what, basically what you said happened with the exception of the speed of the 7, but Queen of Scotch certainly out well and had the speed to get through. Take us through the race. How did it unfold?
Yeah, I mean, we reviewed the race and it sort of panned out as we sort of thought that Queen of Scotch, because there wasn't so much speed around her, she was able to begin well and then was able to use a bit of the track and she didn't get any interference whatsoever. And Yatesy, she was so wide early going to that first turn, but she had good clear ground and so she was able to hold the lead. But Zoe Bale really put it to her into the back straight and down the back straight. And Queen of Scotch, just off the back straight, I thought, Queen of Scotch could be challenged really hard here. But then she sort of went to another gear and was able to sort of just race away and get a winning break on Zoe Bale. Zoe Bale did a really good job to hang on for second and really they cleared out from the others with Yarramundi Paul. We spoke about him for Vadim Ros. I mean, Vadim, just a touch of luck. And he can be right in those races. But he just had a really checkered track into the race. He flew home and dead heated for third with Victa Tony, who did a nice job sitting in behind the speed. But listen, take nothing away, Yatesy, from Queen of Scotch. She's gone from strength to strength and proven to be one of the really nice dogs that the Rasmussens have, but they know they've got plenty.
Yeah.
But she's really developing. She could be a really good open class sprinter for a few months.
And look, tracking wide, and I'd love to know how fast she actually ran because she tracked really deep, as you say, but it's a clear indication that sort of greyhounds run how they run, don't they? Like you can't really train them in a way to do anything a little bit differently. If she wants to track deep, that's how she races. But you're right. The impressive things to me about the win were holding the pressure from Zoe Bale early, who had the rails running, and that point off the back, I think, is key. Sort of just past the 600 boxes when Queen of Scotch went for home and just put that gap on them. I thought it was unbelievable. That little piece there is what – that's probably not what won of the race, but that's what won of the race, if you know what I mean, because beginning well is probably the key to that. But that end part is what really put them away, and I thought it was such an impressive win.
Yeah, I mean, she ran 30-33 and out in front. They're not getting run down doing that. But anyone who has a look at the vision on the GRSA website, the other camera angles that we have after the replay, you can see how wide she got on the track. She ran further than any other dog in the race. I've got no doubt about it. And she won running that sort of time. And as mentioned, down the front straight and in the back straight, she was so wide. But as you said, Yatesy, That's where she wants to be. She's happiest there, out wide, come down a little bit around the corner, but just stay off, and she's really happy there, and it's proven.
Yeah, Vaden Ros with Yarramundi Paul. I note Thursday night stepping him up over a bit of a trip.
Yeah, really exciting to see what he can do. I mean, he's been getting home really hard in his races. Small field Thursday night, but a high-quality field.
Yes.
Might talk about that a little bit later in the preview, but not all dogs can go from 5:30 8C who look 5:95, just look their distance. I remember Wormburner was a good example. So brilliant over 5:30 metres.
Yep.
Only went to 5:95 twice and wasn't as impressive. And so Cam Butcher always kept him back to 5:30. But we're looking forward to Yarramundi Paul, what he can do over the 5:95. Really exciting.
Yeah, it's going to be a good race. Could Be King is the other one out of the race who I sort of liked a little bit. And look, initially I thought was a bit disappointing, and then I go back and have a look at the replay and sort of, it's a forgive run for me a little bit. Copped a little bit of buffeting and then down the back, got it again. Still, that run home was nice in the home straight. Yep. That last 50 metres was able to sort of pick up a few placings and was hitting the line well. So I haven't totally given up on the King yet.
Yeah, I honestly don't think box one's his go.
No.
Not yet, as he's still learning and learning his trade. So I remember he drew one in the Golden Maiden heats first up at his first start and got a bit lost, but then he drew 8 in the final and he got that room and he accelerated mid-race with clear running. He was able to get such an impressive win it was.
Yep.
So I think early in his career, I think box one didn't suit, and in a high-pressure final like that, would have liked to seen him off a little bit, but he still was tagging Yarramundi Paul into the race, so I agree with you, a forgive run.
What about the Australian Cup heats? We had some great representation there on Saturday night, and Heat 1 taken out by Victa Damian for the Rasmussens. What a terrific win.
Oh, most definitely. And I think the boom around him, I mean, a South Australian dog going to Victoria, they sort of go, oh yeah, South Australian dog coming to Victoria. They ran time, but we don't really rate it. He drew one. He was $1.50, Yates. He got out a little bit in the market. So the good judges knew, and didn't he run a marvellous race? He didn't begin that well from box one. He was able to push through and get to fourth. But I know you like his sort of race knowledge, how he's able to sort of move a little bit to the outside of runners, and his acceleration down the back straight just put them away.
Yeah, that was the extraordinary bit to me, was early. If you wanted to plot a path, that's the path to plot. It was an extraordinary piece of racemanship by him so early in his career to come off, sort of half hold, come off again, go around, and then put the afterburners on.
Yeah, brilliant. And you could say that, maybe the dogs chasing him were not of the same standard, but around the time, Yates, he was the second fastest qualifier for the whole series. He went 29.69. He's the only dog who came from further back than second early. So, I mean, he's a big danger in the final. He has to be, because he's got that mid-race acceleration. Yep. Everything else is a bit one-dimensional in the race, not to be unkind to a lot of the other runners, but they lead or sat second in the race.
What do you make of the draw for him, box 7 in the final?
I mean, I know the box draw, when it was done, there was only 2 numbers to come out, and there was box 1 and box 7, and one was Captain Larry. He drew 1 and Victa Damian drew 7. I'm sure the Rasmussens would have liked to have drawn 1 because there'll be natural improvement. But box 7, he's got speed around him. Fernando Mick, we've seen him in South Australia. He's a brilliant beginner and he was brilliant in his heat.
Yep.
He does like to take a straight line to the winning post, but he's really fast. And baby JC on the outside, who was the fastest qualified, drawn 8 outside him. She's got really good high speed as well. So I think the opportunity is there for him to get dragged up into the mid division. And if he can be 3 or 4 off them into the back straight, he puts himself right in the race. I'm pretty buoyant about his chances. I mean, he did the first part. He got into the final.
Yeah.
What'd you make of Captain Larry?
Look, really good performance. What I liked, again, was early. Like, there was heat there was pressure. Bumped twice, I reckon, sort of going to that first bend, and then really able to balance up, get going, and I thought it was, creditable. I thought it was a really strong performance in a high-pressure race to absorb the body pressure early. I really liked the effort. I thought it was very solid.
Well, he was matched up against Wow, She's Fast. I think all eyes were on where she was.
Yep.
And the race was at the front of the field where
Yeah.
Captain Larry was.
Yeah.
And as you said, I mean, Revolution, which was the other equal favourite in the race.
Yep.
Captain Larry sat outside Revolution and ran past him in the straight. So take nothing away from him. He went 29.88, which is a really solid time. And he's a dog that looks to be on the fast track in Victoria. He improved so much. We saw a little bit of him in Mount Gambier with Dave Peckham. He ran a really fast time down the mount, but he's certainly improving and terrific for the owners.
Yeah, absolutely. And Wow, She's Fast, it wasn't really chewing into the ground off Captain Larry late either. So, look, it was a fantastic run. Now, box one for the final for him. What do you make of it?
Well, I would probably... I mean, I don't think you give up box one in a Group 1 final.
Yeah.
But I just can't see him leading.
Yeah.
I see him buried a little bit. But having said that, he's made the final. If there's a little bit of interference, a bit of tightening, he could easily push through into again, third or fourth spot.
Yep.
I just can't see him at the pointy end of the field, so he's going to have to come past some dogs. But he's in the form of his life, so certainly he'd be an each-way show, I would imagine.
Well, best of luck to Connections on Saturday night, and we'll be able to tune in, actually, from the Greyhound of the Year Awards. We'll be screening it, hey?
That is. We'll be able to get it on the big screen. I think the timings have worked in perfectly, unplanned, that it might just lob in a break for the night, and that'll be great. We'll get it on the big screen. The SA Dogs doing as proud interstate, that'd be great.
Fantastic. Math, I thought we'd briefly touch on Sunday night at Gawler as well. We had some heats of the breeders. And look, whilst this is not a massive big-time race, what it does do is give us a bit of an insight into these classic age greyhounds going up against each other as we sort of head to the Howard Ashton in a couple of months' time.
Most definitely, absolutely. I mean, it was over 400 metres. It's really the starting point for a lot of these dogs as they progress to the Group 3 in a couple of months. We've seen the likes of Victa Marley, who got beaten in her heat.
Yeah.
She's a really fast developer. But then you look at my boys for the Rawlings team who won the first heat. He's only just starting out his racing. So my boys won the first heat. Footloose Fever was second. A lot of those Footloose dogs for the Trowbridges, they've got such high speed early.
Yep.
And so they qualified for the first one.
Just on this My Boys, though, it never looked like being beaten. It boxed beautifully, jumped a couple in front. Maybe off the back, you thought, the Footloose is going to sort of go up and put some heat on, but it was away and gone again. So I thought it was a nice win at big odds.
Oh, $12 it started. Very unusual for it to start.
A rolling kennel as well, yeah.
But yeah, I mean, and ran the time as well, 22.82 out in front. So, a really progressive type. So again, he's starting out his racing. So he did that in the first heat. The second heat, Coron Cam, very impressed with Cam Yates. I mean, chased down Victa Marley over 400. That's not easy to do.
No, and I think it was race style as well. It was a big upside for him because railed beautifully on the home turn. Victa Marley left the inside a bit and he was able to charge through and save a lot of ground. And it's a length and a half or so off Victa Marley early. You'd expect, if you're betting in the run, so to speak, the race is done. Yeah. But no, to the turn, hugged beautifully and finished off well. I thought it was a good run. You touched on the Footloose dogs, Matho. Footloose Dreamer for Ken Trowbridge. Very good speed and, it was keen for the fence, wasn't it? It wanted to get down to the rail from the wide draw.
It does look like that whole litter that Ken's got coming through are all high speed, good railers, very well educated, right? So, very professional in getting the win. 22.82, if I can say that correctly. My eyes are going. And Victor Ridley running second. So, a good third heat there. And Tim Richards with Coron Cam, we spoke in the second heat, but another winner with Silk Sonic, and his team's going really well. Tim is, and so he got the win. 22.61 is the fastest qualifier. Again, a dog that showed good speed and led throughout.
And I think from that race, just trying to think back, he sort of held his line a bit early and then off the back was really able to put them away. So, terrific. Looking forward to that. So that was the heats last week. And when's the final?
The final will be on this coming Sunday. So, looking forward to that. As you mentioned, this is a progressive series. And so a lot of these dogs really looking forward to see how they progress and where they end up.
Well, terrific stuff. Up next, mate, we're really going to get stuck into this Greyhound of the Year. Looking forward to it.
The preview.
Time now for our preview of the big action Saturday night. Also, get a best bet or two. Matho's on fire with that for Thursday night at Angle Park. Our preview, of course, brought to you by SA Greyhound Tips Twitter feed. Free tips for SA Metro meetings. Search at the Dogs SA and jump on board as always, of course. Gamble responsibly. Matho, Greyhound of the Year. We've got 5 nominees for the 2022 TAB Greyhound of the Year. Firstly, can you just give me the overarching principles around how the selection process happens and how we've arrived at where we are now with 5?
Yeah, absolutely. I mean, at the conclusion of the year, the Greyhound of the Year panel made up of 7 members look at all performances throughout the year, including the Greyhound of the Months, and look at it as an overall performance. They look to select the dogs who have performed the best of the year. There is some criteria around you've got to have been in the state for 3 months, trained for 3 months. So a dog like Buzz Junkie, which won our Group 1 Adelaide Cup, brilliant, SA owned, trained by Peter Jovanovic, was only here for 6 weeks. Okay, so he was ineligible because he went back to New South Wales. He wasn't here for long enough. And it's to reflect those dogs who have raced here on a consistent basis and performed at the highest level. So that's pretty much it. There are some dogs in relation to swabbing and eligibility and all that sort of stuff that mean they're not eligible. But Yatesy, we've got 5 wonderful finalists for Saturday night. We've been out in the media for a number of weeks now, creating plenty of interest, plenty of talk around who it could be. And in going through them in no particular, they're in alphabetical order as we've released.
Just before you do, Matho, just as a judge on the panel, you are, aren't you?
I am,
yes. So just a question that I'm interested in is the recency bias that can happen when there's been good performances late in the year, for example. As a judge, how do you go about sort of remembering what happened early on and giving it a sort of nice weighting compared to something that may have happened later in the year?
Yeah, and I think that's it's a credit to the panel. I think they're very mindful of going back the 12 months, back to the January the year before, in assessing all performances. They got all the performances in front of them. We got all the racing dates, all the feature races that were run and won, and all of that. So I think you got to be mindful what sticks in your mind as to more recently, and not to forget the performance, as you mentioned, that did happen earlier in the year. So the judging panel take what they do very seriously, and I know they make a point of ensuring that every dog that they believe warrants consideration to be in the top 5 finalists gets due consideration. So they take a time and effort to do it, and I think it's a very thorough process, and it's up to the individual to ensure they do their due diligence around the form. Yep. And I think what they come up with is ultimately hopefully the right finalists.
Yeah, well, it's difficult to argue against who we've come up with, so it sort of seems to be working. Now, what did you want to do? Alphabetical order, did you? So Fantastic Radley would get us underway.
Fantastic Radley, yeah, what a great year he had. Very dominant over the staying trip, wasn't he? I mean, he ended up winning a number of races in a row. He's unbeaten over the 730 metres at Angle Park, track record holder. 21 starts of the year, 18 wins.
That's the extraordinary part for me. I mean, that sort of strike rate. And look, I know he was sort of in that dominance here in South Australia, but the way he did it, the times he ran, as you touch on records, and he was an exciting dog for 2022.
Yeah, the Chegiers did a great job with him. That we've spoken about it before, the fantastic dogs. But he's the pick of them, isn't he? Fantastic Radley. And he had a wonderful 2022. So definitely a worthy finalist.
Yeah, well, he was our state champion for the Nationals and also won the Premier's Cup through the year. What about Mally Magic? Look, a greyhound who really rose to prominence for the Anniversary Cup final, our big 50-year celebration here at headquarters.
He did. What a night that was. And a big race performer. I mean, he performed on the highest level. That 50,000 to the winner race. We had interstate competitors here for it, so he won in fine style. He's the only South Australian dog to have broken 30 seconds. He's went 29.97 during the year.
He had no luck in the Adelaide Cup.
No, absolutely. I mean, he won a heat of the Adelaide Cup. He had no luck. Box one on this occasion probably didn't help him. But he made the final, and he raced all year. He made a lot of finals. He won 12 races from his 32 starts, but he was in everything, wasn't he?
Yeah.
I mean, a high-class performer. The Rasmussens also travelled with him, but definitely the highlight for him was clearly the Anniversary Cup final. And I mean, that was a night in itself, wasn't it? To, the 50th anniversary of Angle Park, that was a special night.
Yeah, it was fabulous to see all the old trainers back, to have the initial race book that was produced on the night to be replicated for the evening in the current sort of form that we had, and just the memories and the connectiveness of the group. I reckon that night you're right. It was one of the real extraordinary nights in greyhound racing.
Well, and he's a big part of it, and definitely on his performance throughout the year, definitely a worthy finalist for sure.
What about Springvale Max? So this is trained, of course, by Gavin Harris. He owns the greyhound as well. And look, we talk about classic age just a moment ago with the Gawler breeder heats, but take me through what he was able to achieve in 2022.
I mean, he was probably the most dominant dog through those classic age races.
Howard Ashton winner?
He was the Howard Ashton winner. He also won the Gawler Produce, which again it's an open pay-up series, but it's an age-restricted one. So, I mean, he... for the big part of the year, he extremely well placed by Gavin to win the race he did. He won 15 races from his 37 starts, 77,000 in prize money, and then we spoke about dogs fresh in your mind. The latter part of the year, he really developed into a really nice open company dog as well.
Yep.
So he again raced all year. He raced through the Adelaide Cup. He ran through the Gawler Cup. So I mean, he's a dog that probably we'll see even more of him this coming year, but had a really, really good 2022.
Yeah, it was an extraordinary progression, wasn't it? Like coming through the classic age, I think he won his heat of the Ashes as well, beaten in the final out of a place there. But it's that development that you can just, as you look back over the year, you go, wow, well, yeah, there's one that sort of put the hand up and then was able to take the step as well.
Most definitely.
And it's been progressive, obviously, in the first part of 2023. What about Victa Grosso for Tony Rasmussen? This greyhound, he was the Shane McQueen feature, and the SA Sprint Championship was placed there in the final.
Yeah, I mean, again, very similar to his kennel mate, Mally Magic, raced in pretty much everything, didn't he, throughout 2022. 21 wins for the year, Yatesy. That's just an astounding amount of wins from his 45 starts. A dual track record holder as well, and broke the track record within 5 days. He broke the Gambia track record and then the Gawler track record.
That's right, yeah.
So amazing performances. Again, another dog that raced interstate. His highlight was no doubt the Shane McQueen, as you mentioned, over the 595. A brilliant performance to win the heat and final there. But I mean, he won the heat of the National Sprint Championship, won a heat of the SA Sprint Championship, and as mentioned, a dual track record holder. So another worthy finalist.
And never out of it, was he? The way he races, he's just tough. The other one, Victor Hayden, also for Tony Rasmussen, a massive hand in the awards on Saturday night. Tell me about Victor Hayden.
Well, the third of his finalists, Victor Hayden, probably the last few months didn't race due to injury, and it would have been nice to see a bit more of Victor Hayden and throughout the year, but that's racing. 29 starts for 8 wins. But what Victor Hayden did do during the year was, ran over multiple distances, over the 530, the 595, the 730. A lot of his good performances came over the 730, but we know how good he is over 530. His feature was winning the Bay Road Queen Stayers Cup, but he was neck and neck with Fantastic Radley through that period. I mean, I go back to the state final of the National Distance Championship, the one-off race.
Yep.
And Victor Hayden put it to Radley, and I think on a wet track, Radley just got him in the shadows of the post. So a brilliant performance. Again, we know what a good dog he is, and it's a credit to both Hayden and Grosso. They were both finalists the year before Yatesy as well.
Yep.
So to be finalists again back-to-back years, terrific effort, and he's definitely a worthy finalist in the 5.
And the other question that sort of comes into my mind after you touch on the distances that Victor Hayden was able to run through, how is the weighting attributed to, say, a Fantastic Radley, for example, versus maybe a Mally Magic? The distance performances versus the sprint efforts, which may be perceived a little bit as more blue riband, if you like. How does that all weighed up in the judging panel?
Yeah, no, it's a good question. I mean, I think that each individual judge will look at things themselves. Me personally, I think feature races count, whether it's over the sprint course or over the staying trip. They count.
Yep.
They weigh heavily. Times weigh heavily. In greyhound racing, it matters what times you run, but also the opposition you're racing against as well. Listen, we know for a fact that staying races, due to the support that South Australia has for staying races, we're only running 4 and 5 dog races. We do, in feature races, we get our 8 dog finals. And they're wonderful races to be in, and they're hard to win. But in the sprint events, you get a fuller fields and all of that. So, I mean, you've got to weigh it up one way or the other. And I don't think there's any right or wrong about it. But, I mean, I just think you can tell the performances of the dogs, regardless of who they're racing against, whether they're really good or not. So,
well, brilliant. Looking forward to it. It's going to be a terrific night. That's Saturday night here at Angle Park, and we'll be able to watch the Australian Cup as well. Right, now here we go. You're no doubt sunning yourself after a big night Thursday. You tipped Molly Irish, led and won. You said that's what had happened. You tipped Queen of Scotch, led and won. You said that's what had happened. How's the premonitions going leading into Thursday night, mate? Really good job last week.
Thank you. Thanks for that, Yatesy. It's always good to tip a winner or two. I mean, you're used to it. That's your job. You do a really good job at it. But this Thursday night, we start a bit later on Thursday night.
So this is for the heat, isn't it?
Yeah, we're having a bit of a heat spell at the moment. So Thursday night, we'll start one race later, around the 7 o'clock on Thursday night. It's only 10 races, smallish program, but some good depth in there.
Yeah.
But obviously we're mindful around the hot weather and making sure we're certainly not racing in the hot parts of the day. So start a bit later on Thursday night. So get there. You don't need to get there too early for the racing, but definitely there's obviously cross code on Thursday night. You can bet into anything else, and the program starts around 7. Yatesy, my best on the night, and I've had a look. I'm going to go with race 4, number 5, Deployment for Jack Trengove. 3 starts ago on a Saturday, went 30.78 in winning a heat of the sort of time grade heat to final. On a Thursday night, and last start, I wasn't too disappointed with him last start. If you watch the replay, he took one straight out, and I think he bunny hopped.
Yeah, definitely something happened.
So he lost a fair bit of ground.
It's listed as stumbled in the in the run-ons.
I don't know if it's BH as bunny hop, but that's what he looked to do. So he lost a bit of ground there, and he then had to work really hard to try to tag onto the back of See My Future. And See My Future really rocketed home at the last part, and he didn't lose much ground to See My Future. So I'm looking at that, a bit better start, not an overly strong field, race 4. So drawn the middle. I think he can position handy early, and I do like him.
That's it for the night?
Yeah, I'll just go the 1. I don't want to jinx too much, but I'll just go the 1. What about you on the night?
Mate, I'm buttering up on the King. So could be King. And look, I don't disagree with your thoughts earlier on that box 1 isn't ideal. I concede that. But I think it'll be okay because I think there was enough pace to get up and around him early, and he can sort of have his space and run on. I was a bit flat, I got to admit, last week after you dominated, and I'm sort of sitting there sucking my thumb. But he's the one that I'm going to butter up and be on, because I went and had another look. I've watched it a few times, and that last bit I liked. Yeah. So small field, I think it's going to be a really big plus. And I'm just going to give him another chance and let's see if we can recoup from last week. So that's race 3, number 1. Look, I've got another one, Matho, as well. Not sure what sort of prices we're looking at. I mean, we haven't got markets just at this stage. There's a touch on smaller field, so that might sort of shift the markets around. But that 600 race is going to be a beauty. Or the 595 with. I'm really looking forward to that. But that's not where I'm going for this one. I'm going with Fantastic Radley, our Greyhound of the Year nominee. Now, gee, was there some money for this, resuming. And I was taken by his run. Now, look, whether he's looking for that bit further now, I don't know. But in the home straight, to charge and miss by not much, that showed to me he's back, and he's back well. Is that sort of that freshness first up, the ability of him to charge late? Look, I don't know, but it was too good a run for me not to be on him. So race 8, number 4, Fantastic Radley.
No, I agree with you. Like what I liked about his run, well, obviously his performance, but it's just like what excitement we're going to have over the next few months when he does step back up to the longer journeys. Just that had like, I'm ready to go.
Yeah.
And so I think on Thursday night, I'm not far off Yates. He couldn't miss his run. And in race 8, I mean, that is the best race on the program. Apart from the 595, race 8 is the highlight. That's the heats from the final from last week. So I think that's the best one on the program. As you mentioned, the 595's race 6 on the program with Ravers Army, Victa Reed. Springvale Roxy steps up. Yarramundi Paul and Spring High-Low. So, yeah, really looking forward to Thursday night and hopefully that best bet getting you, kicking you off with a best bet in the new surroundings.
Yeah, well, let's hope so. Look, terrific stuff, Matho. Now, we've got the Mount Gambier Cup heats. They're coming up, is it Sunday week?
Murray Bridge.
Murray Bridge, my apologies. Murray Bridge. So we'll be back to sort of check them out next week for the Dogcast. So we'll go through all the info there and, of course, the Mount Gambier Cup itself, not too far away either,
it's
really.
Only a couple of weeks after the Murray Bridge, and there's big bonuses attached if you can win the Murray Bridge Cup and then the Mount Gambier Cup. So, the next month, definitely through our country tracks, Murray Bridge and Mount Gambier will be the real focus.
Well, terrific stuff. Good job, mate. Let's hope you found a winner and look forward to the Greyhound of the Year on Saturday night.